Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today we're going to talk about what you do when life doesn't go as planned. I'm going to start right off the bat and give an example. I remember being home thinking, I'm so bored. There's nothing to do, blah, blah, blah. So I complained about this and I wanted to shake things up a bit. Well, as it turned out, for work-related reasons, we had to move to Southern California. Things were interesting at first, but then I really missed the simple things, being familiar with a group of friends, having coffee. And then I started to get kind of miserable, and I realized you never know how things are going to be on the other side. I didn't realize that when I moved, I was going to end up being miserable. I really wanted my old life back. So eventually did come back and picked up where I left off. And I thought, I'm going to teach myself this lesson. Then recently, I was thinking, oh my gosh, things are getting boring again. And all of a sudden, all kinds of stuff started happening. And I was a little faster on learning my lesson. I thought, no, I'm not going to wish it would get shaken up again. So you learn that where you are right now isn't as bad as you thought. In fact, a big part of life not going the way that you wanted to is realizing that it is going the way that you want it to. These are directions and avenues to take you to where you're supposed to be at this moment. Life lessons, etc. And that was really a good lesson for me. And I'm sharing it with you, so hopefully you won't have to go through it. Is kind of melancholy about the way your life is right at the moment. And then when it does get shaken up and you long for the familiarity of the life you were living, and you really start to realize that it wasn't so bad. I know last episode we talked about trusting God, accepting things as they are. And that has never become more of a reality as it has recently. And I think I shared with you last episode. Believe me, I've prayed time and time again about my health. When am I going to get the answer? When am I going to walk? Blah, blah, blah. And I realized by doing that and being so focused on it, I put stress on the situation. And when I realized and had a peace with accepting things the way they are, then they tend to work themselves out anyway. So when you have a situation or a problem, you pray about it, you meditate about it. If you don't get your answer right then, you let it go and accept it for what it is and just know that it's in the works, that it's going to be straightened out. A small example of that is, for some reason, I have this chronic cough. And then when I wasn't even thinking about it, I looked back and thought, wait a minute, my cough is gone. What happened? I don't know. I didn't even realize when it went away. And that's pretty much how life is. Certain things are in the works and they are unfolding for you. And if you believe in God, you believe that everything is unfolding at the time that it should be. When we think life isn't working out the way that we think it should, sometimes we're dodging bullets. Sometimes if you look back at the pattern or the journey that brought you to where you are right now, you will realize that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Just in the last, 10 years, looking back, certain things I wanted, really wanted. And now I realize if I'd gotten those things, I wouldn't be in the best situation at this time. They seem to mean so much to me then, but they don't mean that much to me now. So part of it is just trusting and letting it go. And if it's something that should be corrected, your health, your career, your whatever, it will be. Your relationship, if it should be replaced, then it will be. But it's leaving it at the altar. It's praying about it, letting it go, and then just accepting it. And we talked about last episode about how that also applies to who you are. We're always trying to be better, maybe more attractive, thinking that's going to change things. I firmly believe in taking care of yourself and being the best in who you are, but not being disappointed in yourself. You've got to love yourself and really accept yourself for who you are. We live in a society where we have filters, airbrushes, whatever. And so if you let it, just looking around can affect you, but that's not reality. And the reality is, it's what goes on the inside. Have you ever felt your best, looked your best, but you had something inside that was bothering you? So the beauty of being healthy and happy is accepting things for what they are, feeling good on the inside, not stressing, not hanging on to the baggage, but knowing that each step you take is in the right direction, that God is directing you to where you need to be. As I said, certain things I wanted so bad, and then I didn't get them, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, am I so glad I didn't get them. It would have changed what things have since come into my life. Sometimes in life, we hang on to things so much that we actually magnify them. I know I have a friend that for years and years, and I'm so grateful for her that we could share, but we were both going through things at the same time. So we did work that out. But now, sometimes I catch us in our conversations reverting back to what that situation was and talking about it. After we do, I don't feel so good. So you have to watch what your focus is on. And it gets back to keeping a positive attitude. But the positive attitude is really the simplest. Really living your best life is the easiest, and that is doing nothing. You pray for it, you meditate on it, see if you get the answers right away, and if you don't, then you just walk in trust and know that it's in the works. It's almost like when you leave your car with the mechanic. You walk away, you're not working on the car, but you know that it's being taken care of. He's working on it. And that's how life is. So it's so simple. Just let it go and trust and know that it's in the works. It's real interesting. A few months back, I hired a health coach. And he had an approach. He would say to me, don't dwell on it. Don't think about it. Don't get fearful about it. In other words, just basically let it go. And I thought that was an interesting concept. And it was kind of along the lines that I was thinking, but I've never heard anybody else give me permission to just let it go instead of pushing myself to get better to where I've worked myself into a tizzy, physically, emotionally, mentally. And when he gave me that permission, it was like, wow, this is a great approach, because when you're relaxed, things can flow better. When you're tense, your body squeezes and you can't get the attention that you need, that you should have. In other words, if you feel like your life isn't going the way that it should, you got to think about, first of all, gratitude. You got to be grateful for what you do have and what is going on. And know that things are in the works. And know that perhaps you already have all that you need. I know there was a time when I was dissatisfied with things that were going on in my life. And my friend said, I prayed for you and I feel like she has everything she needs in her own backyard. And I thought, what does that mean? It's like the last thing I wanted to hear, that things weren't going to change the way I wanted them to. And now fast forward to where I am now, looking back, it's like, thank goodness they didn't change, because subtle tweaks and adjustments made what I already had where I actually want to be. So sometimes we dismiss things that are there for us, and we don't realize that we already have so much, and we already have part of what we need. It just needs some tweaking. So when you feel yourself being dissatisfied, stop, pray about it, meditate about it, and just know that it's in the works. And you'll find that life is more on track than you think it is. Sometimes when we try to rush things because we want our life to look a certain way, we put undue pressure on ourselves, on the situation. I know if I'm invited to an event or somebody's coming to visit or whatever, I think, oh my gosh, I got to be in this shape or that shape by the time they come. And the reality is I don't. And I certainly don't need to put that pressure on myself. And if we're surrounded by people that we thought, oh my gosh, this person is not acting the way that I think they should toward me, what I'm getting at is, don't be too quick to perceive people as an enemy, because sometimes they're just simply going through things themselves. About 2 years ago, I have a friend that I heard lost her house. I let her come and stay with me. All this time, I thought I was doing her a great favor. And it was just last night, as a matter of fact. All of a sudden, it dawned on me, I never thanked her for what she did for me. She filled a big void in my life as well. And so I sent her a little message and told her thank you for all she did for me as well. I mean, years have gone by and it never dawned on me that she had her own agenda, obviously, that she was dealing with. But yet her presence, she'd cook every night. It was wonderful. I was thinking about it. I was so appreciative of that. Why I never thought to thank her before last night is beyond me. Sometimes we don't get clarity on certain things until the time is right, but you're never late. And I'm sure I'm never late with her either. But I sent her a little message and just said, thank you for your support and your help. So the big picture is, what I'm getting at is that sometimes we have just what we need, but we can't see it because it isn't in line with how we thought it should be. But remember, everyone around us is going through their own thing. And part of it is accepting ourselves for who we are and loving ourselves. We should love ourselves more than anybody else would ever love us. And we should feel comfortable and confident in who we are, just as we are. So when we feel that life isn't going as planned, remember, it very well could be. And part of that is accepting things that they are, but just trusting that things that you want changed will be changed. We don't need to do anything except trust, have faith, enjoy our lives. Remember, now is our time to think about that younger child that had hopes and dreams and desires. And it's our job to take care of that child, bring it up to who we are at this point. We know what we wanted, and we can give it to ourselves. There are certain things we need to work on changing ourselves. I mean, if you're really dissatisfied with your job, for example, yes, you need to work on getting another one or get yourself educated to go into something else. It's our duty to do our part. But all things considered, if we could look into the future, I think we would have an understanding as to why we're where we're at. Just give it time for all the pieces to fall into place. If it's something that you absolutely need to change, then you work on that as well. But as I said, don't be too quick to discard situations, people, because situations sometimes go a certain direction to either teach you a lesson or to redirect you. And people, try not to take things too personal, because just as you're going through things, you got to remember, and it's easy to forget, everybody's going through things. And so if somebody treats you in a way that makes you think, why are they doing this? Just remember that they're a human being with their own set of needs as well. And maybe you can teach them to just trust and walk in faith. So as I close, I'm going to say, life may not be as out of sync with what you've planned as you think. With that being said, God bless you, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.